You just like saying blast off, I know it. Okay, so let's work on these problems. So on your piece of paper, put down number 1 and rewrite the equation, which is 3a minus 5 equals negative 14. Okay, so this is a 2-step equation, right? Our ultimate goal is to get the variable alone on one side of equal sign, right? So what's our variable in the first problem? What's the only letter there? A. So our goal at the end is to have A, an equal sign, and then a number on the other side. So the way that happens is we have to move things from one side of the equal sign to the other. So in this problem, we're going to leave the 3A for last, right? Because we need the letter at the end. So the first thing we're going to move is just that negative 5 that's all alone. Since it's a minus, we're going to use the opposite process to move it to the other side of the equal sign, which means it's going to be plus 5. Plus 5, right? And so that crosses out to 0, cancels out, right? Because one positive and one negative cancel each other out to 0. So if we were to draw 5 positive signs and 5 negatives, we could slash them all out and there'd be nothing there. So what we do on one side of the equal sign, we have to do on the other. So now we have to add positive 5 to negative 14. If you look on the wall for the integer rules, when you add and subtract positive and negative integers, if you have different signs, you turn it into a subtraction problem and you take the larger sign as your answer. So I would make that 14 minus 5. What's the answer to that, guys?
9.
Yes, it's 9. Since 14 is the bigger sign, I make it a negative 9. So I did that in step 1. Now I'm going to do step 2 in another color. So now I'm going to rewrite what I have left, right? So I'm going to rewrite 3a equals negative 9. Jose, you need to be taking notes, please. You need a pen or a pencil out. Thank you. So 3a, is that, what kind of now we have a 1-step equation. What kind of problem is that, 3a? Is that adding, subtracting, multiply, or dividing? Wait, if you look hard enough, you're going to see that multiply sign show up. It's a multiplication problem. So how do I clear the 3 away from the a so that all I have left is the a? If it's a multiplication problem, I'm going to use the opposite process to get rid of the number. So the opposite of multiplying is what? Yes, dividing. So I'm going to, this line, aside from meaning fractions, means divide. So I'm going to put that 3 over another 3, which will cross it out and cancel it to 0. Right, what I do on one side of the equal sign, I have to put 3. You're right, Isabella. So now that's just like if I were to make the long division sign, I pull that negative 9 down here, and I've got negative 9 divided by 3. How many times does 3 go into 9?
3 times.
Good. Now, if you look over at the wall, the rules for integer operations, when you multiply and divide, if you have 2 different signs, you get a negative answer. So that's a negative 3. So my answer is, my answer is A, because that's what I have left, equals negative 3. And I box that out because that is my final answer. All right? Good. Yes, sir.
I wrote it all on here.
What?
Can I have an erasing?
Yes. Yes. All right, so let's go to the next problem. Fabrizio, what is my goal? I wrote it on the top of my paper. It's to get the variable alone on one side of the equal sign, right? If you didn't remember that, why don't you guys write that at the top of your paper, just like I wrote it on mine. Cool. Thank you. That was smart. Your goal
Copy everything.
is to get the variable alone on one side of the equal sign. I wrote it in there in blue pen, right up at the top.
I copy everything.
Good. So number 2 is 10 equals negative 2c plus 22. So write that problem down. Now, just because the 10 is on a different side of the equal sign doesn't mean you solve it any differently, right? So let's start and let's look at the pieces. We've got a 10 and equal sign, negative 2c, which is our variable, which we want to save for last because at the end we just want to have c equals a number, and then plus 22. So what's the first thing we're going to get rid of, Fabrizio? Or move to the other side of the equal sign if we want to keep the 2c, the negative 2c for last. What part goes first? 2c plus 22. The 22. Because I want to move this 22 over to here. Because all I want is the c on one side and all the numbers on the other. So how do I move the 22 over, Fabrizio? It's a positive number. What's the opposite of positive? I know it's a Monday morning, but I know you know it. What's the opposite of positive?
Negative.
Yeah. So I make that negative 22. I knew you knew it. We just got to wake up. That's all. So let's slash that out. Cancels to 0. And what I do on one side of the equal sign, I need to do on the other. So now, on the other side where that 10 is, I'm going to say negative 22. And again, on the wall, for the rules for integer operations, if you're adding and subtracting, and you have different signs, you turn it into a subtraction problem, and you keep the sign of the larger number. So negative 22 is the bigger number, so we know that we're going to have a negative answer.
So
And
it's negative 12.
it is negative 12. 22 minus 10 is 12. So it's negative 12. So now I'm going to rewrite what I have left. Is negative 12 equals negative 2c. Now this is the same as our last problem. The number's just on a different side of the equal sign. So it's negative 12 equals 2c. Is 2c a multiply or a divide, Fabrizio? Whenever the letter and the number are smashed up together like that, there's that invisible multiply sign, right? So it's a multiply problem. So hold on. If you haven't figured out, I've got a pattern going here. So I'm going to ask him. So what's the opposite of multiply? Yeah, so that's how I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to move that 2 over by putting it over another negative 2. And that will cancel each other out. And now what I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So now I've got negative 12 divided by negative 2. If you look over at the wall for the rules for integer operations, when you multiply and divide and you have 2 of the same sign, you get a positive answer. So I got a negative 12 and a negative 2. There's 2 of the same sign. What is 12 divided by 2?
12 divided by 2.
You have calculators?
6.
Yes,
I use my hand.
that works. 6. So now I'm going to rewrite what I have left, which is the letter C. So I've got 6 equals C. And I'm going to box that out because that is my final answer.
Wouldn't C be in front of 6 though?
That's not how this problem was written, was it? And I didn't want to confuse anybody by moving it. You could move it. You could have it either way. It doesn't matter. All right. See, I told you, we're going to wind up spending all our time going through 6 problems. So, number 3, write this one down. The problem is 18 equals negative 5b minus 17. All right. So, again, our goal is to get the variable, in this case, the letter b, alone on one side of the equal sign. So